Hey everyone, welcome to Realization Hub. My name is Michelle Corazao-Dino, and I'm an intuitive counselor, energy healer, and channeler who loves to bridge the gap between the unseen world of spirit, intuition, consciousness, and energy so that it can apply to your everyday human experience. Today's video is an energy update for May 2022, and I'll be going over the energy dynamics for mass consciousness, those of you in your awakening, and those of you in your embodied enlightenment. If you do enjoy this video, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out a lot. Let's go ahead and get started. All right, let's get started with mass consciousness. In May 2022, I was seeing an image of a man in the water that was like going deep into the water and sitting at a certain depth and just staying there and acclimating to the depth of the water. It reminded me of like how scuba divers it reminded me how scuba divers have to like go into the water and they have to acclimate at different depths before they go really, really deep. And this reminds me of mass consciousness, where mass consciousness is starting to go deep. They've been going deep, since the pandemic started, kind of going deeper into themselves. So what do I mean by going deep? When I think about healing, let's say you have like a painful tumor in your body. Well, kind of staying in the shallow end might be like taking pain medication and just numbing the pain. And you might feel better, you might not feel the pain, but you're only really addressing the issue on a surface level. Whereas if you went deep in a healing and you had like a tumor or something, you would probably go through surgery, get it removed, go through some type of treatment or therapy, and remove the tumor from your body. And you'd have more of a long-term permanent solution. You'd be addressing something in a deeper way. So when I say mass consciousness is going deep, I mean that they're no longer really entertaining surface level solutions. They're starting to go deeper within themselves, deeper into the issues or the problems or the challenges that are on the planet, and starting to acclimate to a certain level of depth, because ultimately they're looking for long-term solutions, long-term changes versus these surface level band-aids or surface level temporary changes that really don't solve the problems on the planet right now. They're starting to go a little bit deeper when it comes to their masculine energy, especially, because I do notice that there are masculine energetic imbalances on the planet right now. And it looks like May, mass consciousness is going to be going a little bit deeper and starting to bring more awareness to some of the internal or deeper imbalances related to masculine energy, and bring it up to the surface so that it can be seen, so that it can be released, so that it can be rebalanced. Okay, so how does that impact you? For those of us that may be sensitive to mass consciousness or the weather of mass consciousness, you yourself might find yourself going through experiences where you're going deeper into your emotions. Like, for example, let's say you have some kind of anger issue that starts to get really triggered or activated or obvious to you. Instead of just trying to suppress it or cover it up or pretend like it's not there, in May, you could find yourself going deep inside of you and start to discover, why do I have anger issues? What's causing the anger issues? What is the unmet need, emotional need that I have? Do I need to make a boundary? Do I need to make a change? Do I need to update something in my life? Do I need to, make a boundary with myself? So I see where like emotionally mass consciousness might be impacting everyone on the planet. Having you yourself go into more depth in your emotions, to feel things that maybe you haven't felt before, to go a little bit deeper and reveal some patterns that maybe were unseen. to go through a type of emotional rebalancing. I specifically notice mass consciousness kind of leaning into more of a balancing around their masculine energy. So the way this may impact you is that you find yourself rebalancing your own masculine energy, especially on an emotional level. And so sometimes when I think about some common masculine energy imbalances, sometimes that's reflected in how emotions are not felt, or emotions are suppressed, or emotions are invalidated, or that it's weak to feel your emotions. Sometimes there's anger issues. Sometimes there's issues where our minds dominate our emotions, or sometimes we have issues where we're not listening to how we feel at all. So you may find some emotional imbalance that may not be obvious why it's there. Suddenly you're having outbursts out of nowhere, or suddenly you're just crying all the time, or suddenly you don't know why you're experiencing so much anxiety. In May, there might be a little internal exploration going on where you're just going in deep and sitting with your feelings, sitting with what's going on inside of you, observing it, and revealing and bringing clarity to some of the energy dynamics that are underneath the surface that are, being released or being rebalanced in some way. So I want to share a little bit of wisdom about going deep, because a lot of times when we stay on the surface level, we can see immediate results. We can see immediate changes in our life, okay? But many times when we start going deep, we might be going through something challenging. We might be stirring the pot. We might be going through deep internal transformation, but many times it's not obvious on the surface. Many times it's not obvious in our physical life that anything is changing. So just a little wisdom I want to share about that is, just because you don't see things changing in your outer world does not mean that things aren't changing, or things aren't working, or the things that you're trying to heal or rebalance aren't working. A lot of times when we go deep, the last thing we see is the external changes that come after that. So just keep that in mind. If you're going through something transformative inside of you, if you feel yourself going through changes, if you feel yourself going through self-healing or rebalancing in some way, just recognize that you don't need external validation to validate the fact that you are in fact rebalancing something, you are in fact embodying something or changing something inside of you. And maybe you don't see it now, but you will eventually see it. So I think that's one of the wisdoms I like to pass on around going deep. For me personally, when I was in my teenage years, I suffered from severe depression, and immediately I was diagnosed with severe depression and was given medication. And that was kind of like a surface level solution. And I took the medication, sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But eventually, after about, many, many years trying many different things, I went deep and I started to learn how to develop my intuition. And I started to learn how to heal myself and manage my energy, and how to handle the level of sensitivity that I was experiencing. And I went really deep. I didn't see much change in my outer world, but I was changing a lot in my inner world. And I was showing up every day, changing patterns, changing the way I communicated, changing the way I showed up, changing the way I saw things, my perception, changing, how open I was, changing how I let go of things, changing my attachment to things. Presenting myself in new ways, showing up in the moment and changing things in a very deep way. And it wasn't until years and years and years after that where I saw big change start to happen in my life. And so while I was going through it, it didn't seem like a lot of change was happening at all. But eventually, big change did happen in my external world from all that deep diving that I did before. So I just want to bring that wisdom to you in case you're going through a similar situation where you feel like you're working through, hard things. You're feeling challenged. You feel like you're not really getting the results that you want after a lot of, allowing, or after a lot of personal healing that you're going through. Sometimes when we go deep, we don't see immediate results, and that's natural. So with that, let's go ahead and pull some cards and see if there's anything else for us to know about mass consciousness in May 2022. All right, so first card that I pulled for mass consciousness is this beautiful Two of Cups card. And first impression that I got was that this card was referring to the rebalancing of masculine and feminine energy that is happening on the planet right now. You can think of them as a relationship, you know. And, you know, the more that these masculine and feminine energies rebalance, the more that a beautiful connection can happen, a beautiful reunion of these energies can happen, a beautiful commitment, a beautiful dynamic that can happen between them when they're both rebalanced and they're both healed and they're both committed and working with one another in a very balanced, beautiful way. So I do notice that this is essentially kind of reinforcing why all of this rebalancing is happening with masculine energy right now. We may be seeing some really dark stuff come to the surface around masculine energy, dominance, abuse, suppression, mental dominance, patriarchy. There's all kinds of things that are reflected from the imbalanced masculine energy on the planet. And the same with the feminine. There are many imbalances in the feminine energy. And we've been going through phases of rebalancing the feminine energy, rebalancing the masculine energy. And so in May, there is a rebalancing of masculine energy happening, but overall it contributes to this beautiful kind of relationship between masculine and feminine energy on the planet, and how when both masculine and feminine energy come together in this beautiful, balanced way, some really incredible connections can be made on the planet. Some really beautiful creations can be made on the planet. A lot of things can come to fruition. All right. The next card I pulled was this community card. Not sure if you can see the image. It's of like a haystack, some giraffes, bird, different birds. And with these two cards, I really feel like there's also another message for us in May, and that's that there's a lot of connection happening in May. You might, a lot of relationships are coming together, like community working together, like people connecting from all over the world. This reminds me of this energy of like, we can all have our differences. We can all be unique. We can all, have different skill sets, different perspectives, different backgrounds. But that's what creates a community. That's what creates, a balance in a way. This can be like a really good thing. Our differences and our diversity can be embraced, and it can be a really good thing. And, when we're able to like love that and appreciate that and balance that and bring it together, we can have these beautiful connections that start to rise, some beautiful commitments and beautiful unions where we're working together, we're connected together. When I'm looking at this card, I see a clairvoyant image of like a tree, and most of the tree looks like a normal tree, but then the top of the tree almost looks like it has little lights in it. So I feel like there's some really bright, people on the planet that are going to be, emerging or, obvious in May, that are maybe inspiring people in the community or attracting people into, community or connection or commitments together, beautiful commitments together. So you do really kind of feel that energy of like inspiration, or kind of like these beautiful, bright people kind of standing out amongst the normal things that are happening on the planet and letting themselves be seen and inspiring people to connect, inspiring people to come together, inspiring people to work together. The other card that I pulled was this Speak Truth card. And I immediately see this image of a lot of people with like dark cloaks on. They're all holding candles and they're kind of walking forward together. So I don't think that this is a card that reflects like an active voice that's out there in mass consciousness. I do think that there is like a silent voice that is coming from the little light that shines within everyone, you know, and it's a type of expression. If we think about the ways of expressing ourselves, we have verbal communication and we have nonverbal communication. This reminds me of the impact of nonverbal communication, the type of impact that comes from our light, from our consciousness that communicates with energy around us. Okay. And what I'm seeing is like an image of a lot of people that, you know, maybe the majority of them are kind of in a dark place or perhaps not really that conscious, but it doesn't take much. I see just a tiny light inside of all of them, you know, where like mass consciousness finally has just a little bit of light inside of them. And that's enough to start to change the energy in the world, to start to communicate to the energy in the world, to start to have an impact on the energy in the world. So I do see like, you know, I kind of get this feeling that mass consciousness is starting to come together in some way. Maybe like a type of consciousness is starting to kind of seed inside of them or grow inside of them that creates like a connection or a community or kind of like a reunion of sorts that allows some real changes to happen on the planet, that starts to influence real changes on the planet. And then I have this, you know, card that says the Wildling. It was reversed when it came out. And this card kind of speaks about going against, you know, habit, going against tradition, like kind of being wild, cutting yourself free from ties and just going off on your own. And this was reversed. So I really feel that ultimately, you know, this time on the planet is a little bit more about us coming together on some things, but it ultimately leads to a type of sovereignty where we're all very unique. We're all individual. We all have our own self-government. We're all different from each other. And that is accepted, that we don't have to escape our community in order to be ourselves, that we can embrace our differences, embrace the diversity, so that we can all be sovereign in some way. We can all have our own way of doing things, our own personality, our own differences, and that's not a problem, that's a strength. You know, so I really do see some beautiful things happening through this rebalancing of feminine and masculine energy on the planet. I do think it's going to impact, you know, the way we come together and connect and make change on the planet, as well as allow us to be different and embrace our differences and embrace diversity. You know, the image that I just got when I was saying that was like a scene from like Star Wars, you know, where you like walk into like a Star Wars bar and you see all these different aliens, you know, sitting in the same room. Like they're all very different. They're all very diverse. I kind of get that feeling about the planet that, you know, we have different ages, we have different spectrums of expression, sexual expression, we have different races, we have a lot of differences that are emerging and being embraced in our culture. And then we have a lot of people out there that, you know, want to go back to the old and are suppressing that individual expression. I really did get the sense that ultimately we're starting to create an acceptance or an opening to embrace diversity. And that helps us become sovereign. But I wouldn't be surprised if at one point in the far, far future, or maybe not so far future, that we do actually exist with very diverse beings on the planet. Could be different races, could be different species, could be different beings from other planets. We never know. We're opening up some big doors right now on the planet, some big potentials on the planet, because we are rebalancing, we are changing things. So I do kind of get that feeling of people coming together, people embracing their differences, the light on the planet impacting the energy and bringing, some beautiful potentials to the planet, and ultimately leading us to our own sovereignty, where we're not limited by our differences. We are empowered by our differences. All right. If you enjoyed this message, please like this video, give this a thumbs up, and subscribe to my channel. Let's go ahead and move on to those in their awakening. Hello to those of you going through your awakening. Thanks for watching. In May 2022, I saw this image of a brain that was being rewired. And so immediately that told me that in May 2022, you might be going through some changes with your mind. And that's very natural, because before awakening starts, we really do operate from the mind, and it's the most dominant way that we navigate our lives. We process through everything, through lots of thoughts and analyzing and interpreting and judging, and thinking things through and perceiving things in a very linear way. And then through the evolution of awakening and into embodied enlightenment and beyond that, you start to navigate your life from a whole different intelligence, more of your divine intelligence. And that looks a lot different. That goes beyond the mind, where you're navigating your life from your knowingness, your intuition, your clarity, your wisdom. And you're navigating your life from a very integrated, clear, present state versus a very disassociated, clouded, scattered state. Okay, so these changes happen over the course of years. And during that process, your mind will go through adjustments along the way. And so May does look like a time where your mind is going through an adjustment. So if you find that you're expressing yourself in weird ways, like, you try to talk and you mean to say apple, but instead you say orange, or, you start speaking one sentence and then halfway through you end it with a completely different sentence, or you totally forget things, or you just draw a blank, or you're starting to make mistakes, or you're having difficulties through little transitions during your day, that's because your mind is rewiring. And so you might experience some mishaps, some mental mishaps. And I just recommend, just passing on some wisdom here, to laugh at it, to laugh at yourself, to not make it a problem. A lot of people might feel dumb, stupid, like something's wrong with them, but really it's natural. Going through a mental adjustment, things are rewiring in your brain, you're going beyond your mind a little bit more. So it's natural for there to be some, mistakes, forgetfulness, fumbling through your words, all kinds of things related to that, not being able to focus as well. Things are adjusting. There could even be some disorientation, depending on how much rewiring you're doing. So I highly recommend that you have a sense of humor through this, because it is temporary. Your mind will adjust. Eventually you will get adjusted. Eventually you will reorient to your world again. And so really just have a sense of humor about it. Try to make fun of it, try to joke about it, try to stay amused, lighten it up. Another thing I recommend is not comparing yourself to others at this time, because you might be in a world with working with other people, living with other people, associating with other people who are not going through an awakening. And those people might be focused. They might be really smart. They might be detailed. They might not forget anything. They might be on top of it, on top of their lives, on top of what they're doing. They might be doing a really good job at life, as a human. However, you're going through an awakening, which is different. You're approaching changes in yourself, in your energy, and in your world in very deep ways. So don't compare yourself to other people. Just because your friend is on top of the emails, can speak perfectly, can show up on time, doesn't forget anything, doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you or you're doing something bad because you're going through an adjustment. So this is not the time to compare yourself to other people. It's not the time to make this a problem or to worry about your mind. It's just a time to allow your mind to change. Get out of your own way. Let it adjust. Have a sense of humor about it. I do recommend that if you have trouble with little transitions during your day, like you forget things between waking up and getting ready and making your coffee and eating breakfast and driving to work, and you tend to make a lot of mistakes throughout your day, I do recommend that maybe in May you just slow down everything just a little bit, downshift a couple of gears so that you can be a little bit more present through your little transitions that you make through your day. Because ultimately, this is the change in how you're navigating your life. Instead of navigating your life from your mind, you will eventually be navigating your life through your presence, and through your knowingness and intuition and clarity and wisdom. And so it's a good time when you're going through mental disorientation to slow things down and just be present with yourself throughout the day and practice navigating life through that presence instead of mentally and figuring it out and being sharp and focused. Okay? Let's go ahead and pull some cards, see if there's anything else for you to know about May 2022. Okay, so the first card we get for those of you in your awakening in May 2022 is the Queen of Pentacles. The Queen of Pentacles is a very grounded energy, very open to love and abundance, very connected with herself and her community. And these are characteristics that kind of show up for you in May. So whatever rewiring you're going through in your mind, it does ultimately lead you to these characteristics of being more grounded, of being connected with yourself and others in your community, of working through your limitations and your abundance and bringing them to light, and opening yourself more to abundance, opening yourself more up to your own love. And the image that I get for this card is like a sacred teepee, like a little tent that you can walk into and perform like a ritual or ceremony. And, inside that teepee, there's a connection that happens with yourself. There's like, a realignment, or, just like, I just want to say a connection, where you can have those moments where the whole environment is supporting this connection with yourself. So I do believe you're connecting with this version of yourself in May. Like this change that's happening with your mind, this adjustment that you may be going through. It is there to create a space so that you can connect with this part of you. The part of you that's more grounded in your reality, the part of you that's more embodied, the part of you that is connected with yourself and others, the part of you that is open to your abundance, the part of you that is filled with love. Beautiful. Next card I pulled for those of you in your awakening is this Cantaloupe Dragon card, which says realign. So we got a lot of things happening, realignment, rewiring. I wouldn't be surprised if Mercury retrograde is in May. I kind of think it is. I don't know the exact dates, but we might have a retrograde going on in May. But yeah, this is a realignment card. So this rewiring that's going on in your brain, this adjustment that you might be going through mentally, is definitely helping you to realign. And I imagine that you're realigning with your abundance. You're realigning with your connection with yourself. You're realigning with what you're creating in the world. I specifically get this energy from this card that like you might be trying to create something that doesn't seem like it's going to work out, but in fact it does work out. I kind of see you surprising yourself and like, wow, what I thought I was making actually turned out better than I thought it would. So that's the kind of feeling I get from this card, is that you're realigning with like an unexpected result. You're realigning with a better result. You're realigning with something that's different than what you're used to. So if you're used to making like a fruit salad that no one eats, you know, this is an example of you making a fruit salad that everyone loves. So I feel you realigning with something that you're creating that other people might really like, that might be successful, that might have a better outcome than you originally planned. We also have this Magi card that came out. So I feel like this is what you're creating. You're creating a life, or like you're embodying these characteristics, and you're creating this of being, you know, grounded, connected, open to your abundance, filled with love, you know, approaching things in very stable, practical ways, but also being very creative, going beyond the mind, going beyond time and space, tapping into your creative energy and creating some new things. So this is a realignment that's happening. You know, this rewiring and this adjustment going on in your mind. It's helping you realign to being more of a creator, to being a stable creator, a very embodied creator. So even though you might be going through an adjustment and it might not feel too great, or you might be feeling like you're making lots of mistakes or messing everything up, just keep the long-term perspective, you know, handy, because in the long term, all these adjustments and discomforts are leading you to being a very embodied creator that realigns you to things that work out better than you imagined. All right. So if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out a lot. I'm going to move on to those of you in your embodied enlightenment. Hello to those of you going through your embodied enlightenment. In May 2022, I saw this image of you standing near a tornado. And that tornado was spinning and you were just standing there observing it. So my first impression is that there's an energetic dynamic that's very cyclic for you that you may be encountering in May 2022. So sometimes I see that as like an energetic storm, a type of energetic wounding that might be cycling around you. But you seem to have some distance with it. You seem to be able to observe it. Instead of being in the wound, you're kind of outside of the wound, observing it as it happens. So it does seem like you're going through some type of rebalancing in May 2022, possibly going through cycles where your perception of an old wound is changing again, or perhaps cycling through a wound and releasing energy or integrating something. But ultimately, I do see you having a handle on it, you know, very much having the wisdom you need to navigate you through that experience of taking your level of awareness and your light to a new level. Another image that I saw for you was of a tree, and half of the tree was blossoming and half of the tree hadn't blossomed yet. So whatever this wounding is that comes up around May 2022 is a type of wounding that has maybe closed you down or shut you down to certain parts of yourself. And so I do see that when you continue to rebalance this wound and you get more distance from it and you integrate it more and you heal more, that this will allow you to open up more and to allow your inner light to shine more and open you up to more potentials, open you up to more experiences, open you up to more of your own wisdom, more of your information, more of your multifaceted, multidimensional self. So it does seem like whatever you might be dealing with, whether it's challenging in May, or it's just annoying, or it's just, something that's happening alongside of all the other things you're going through, you do seem to have a handle on it, and it is a type of rebalancing that you're going through. So how does this rebalancing, kind of impact you? I was seeing this image of like a room in a house that hasn't been used for years. And you kind of going back into that room and saying like, oh, I have this whole room. I haven't used it. I'm going to refurbish it. I'm going to paint everything, take out the furniture, update everything, and re-own it. So I do see that some of the energetic stuff that you might be rebalancing was a type of separation, created a type of separation. So you may experience feelings of disconnection or separation in May as you begin to rebalance it. So it is important that in May, even if you feel disconnected or even if you feel separated from yourself or everyone else in the world, to really validate that that connection is still there and that you're just experiencing a type of wounding that you're cycling through and you're opening back up more, which allows you to release energies that create separation with yourself. This is also allowing you to open up areas of your energy that you haven't yet really owned, that you haven't really accessed and take ownership of. So it is just like that room in the house that hasn't been used for centuries, and suddenly you go in there and you own it, you refurbish it, you bring life to it. Same thing with your own energy. These energies of separation that you may be releasing in May 2022 is opening you up to areas of your energy that you're going to be more present in, that you're going to re-own, that you're going to reestablish, that you're going to update. The one thing that I am feeling about you is just how all this opening that you're doing is really opening up new potentials for you, new areas of your energy to re-own. So you might in May also consider, what are some of the desires that you have that are coming up to the surface? What are some of the needs that you're craving? What are some of the possibilities that you're dreaming of? Because it might be a fun exercise in May to ask yourself, wouldn't it be cool if I did this? Wouldn't it be cool if I did that? Wouldn't it be cool? And just kind of let yourself open up to new possibilities in your energy. Because you are opening up new areas of your energy for you to re-own again. And so you might want to play with that opening and start to feel into like what you're drawn to, what inspires you, what are you passionate about now? It doesn't have to make sense. It can be totally spontaneous. What would be amazing to you? What would be awesome to you? What would be interesting to you? What are you curious about? What would be cool if it happened to you? These are the things that you can kind of open up to and play with, because it's your experience of opening up your energy and occupying it and re-owning it and updating it. And, sometimes it's fun to play with that instead of it being kind of scary, like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with this new spaciousness that I have, with this new energy that I have, with this new area of my energy that I haven't occupied, that I haven't owned. It can be a little intimidating. It can be a little bit overwhelming. Sometimes it doesn't have to be, but can be for some people. So I do encourage you to play with it instead of, getting freaked out by it or intimidated by it. Instead, play with it and say, wouldn't it be cool if I did this? Wouldn't it be cool if I did that? Just start to explore your passions again, explore your inspirations again, explore what makes you curious, because this is you kind of going into the new parts of your energy that have just been opened up, that are waiting for you to be there, to be present. So let's go ahead and pull some cards and see if there's anything else in May 2022 for you to know about. Okay, the first card that I pulled is the Knight of Wands. This is a pretty fast energy. You can see this woman, she's playing a drum. There's fire around her. There's this energy of things being spontaneous, being passionate, going to your own beat. tuning into your own inspirations. I specifically see an image of someone braiding something. So that makes me think that there are a few things that are coming together. And maybe at first you thought they were kind of different things. Like, let's say you did artwork and you did photography and then you did jewelry. And then in May, suddenly you get this inspiration to intertwine all three things. And suddenly you create a new form of artwork that involves jewelry and painting and photography. And they all kind of come together and weave in and out with each other. You know, this is kind of what I feel in this card for you in May, where like there have been some things that are a little bit separated in your life. You know, you didn't really see the connection between them. But in May, you might feel this inspiration or this passion or this creative energy that suddenly kind of comes through where maybe you're experimenting, maybe you're trying something different, and you start to bring things together that you didn't think belonged together. And they start to create something new for you, something that has more strength for you, something that lasts longer for you. Another card that I pull is Brigid. I hope I said that right. Brigid. And it says, the goddess of the eternal flame. I am an eternal flame, and each day my light grows brighter. So if you feel like you've been in a dark place, going through it, going through a hard time, going through lots of challenges, not seeing a lot of results, this is a card that says in May, you're going to start seeing like the first glimpse of results in something. The first glimpse of light after going through a dark time. That eventually will lead to more light, more brightness in your life. And I see an image of like a horse in this card. And that horse is free. It doesn't have a harness on it. Okay, and so maybe for a long time, you got used to doing things in a regimented or traditional way or a structured way, kind of like a horse with a saddle on it and a harness on it. You know, that horse was developed, it was trained, and it, you know, it runs a certain way, it walks a certain way, it obeys, you know, certain commands. But when that horse doesn't have a saddle on or a harness on, it's wild, it's free, it's open. It can do whatever it wants. And so that's what I get about you is that, you know, you're kind of coming undone in a good way. Like there used to be maybe like some energy that you've been working through that limited you, that harnessed you, that kind of kept you in a box, that, you know, was restricting you in some way creatively. And this is showing me that that's all changing. You're getting a little wild. Like you're going to start being a little bit spontaneous, letting your creative energy do things that were unplanned, step outside of the box, you know, march to the beat of your own drum. And that, you know, in May, you'll start to see the light of this, you know, the good things that happen because of this. You'll start to just see the beginning of that. Another card that I pulled was this Hilarion card. And it says, health and healing. So this is just confirmation that whatever you're going through, whatever rebalancing you're going through, whatever wounding that you're working through, whatever has been plaguing you for a while, this card is telling me that you are in fact healing it, you are in fact rebalancing it, and eventually you will see the fruits of that labor. Eventually you're going to see the light of that. I'm seeing the image of a bear in this card. And to me, a bear represents our fears and our subconscious. So I do think a part of this wounding does involve some deep fears that maybe you weren't aware of. Maybe you weren't aware of how they were impacting you in your creative energy or in your life. And so I do see that you are not just healing things on a surface level, you're going very deep in May, and you're healing wounding or energetic imbalances that happen on a very deep subconscious level. Maybe it involves fears, certain fears that prevented you from trusting, from being spontaneous, from being bright, from being connected. And so it does look like this rebalancing will really, allow you to be very fast with your creative energy. Create things very quickly. Be more spontaneous. Run with your inspiration. Brighten up. Bring balance to things. All right, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out a lot. I hope you have a great May. Take care. Bye.